Welcome to a panel discussion we produced during Black History Month concerning the history of Black rights in entertainment and the music industry. We have a stellar lineup of panelists, including Jeffrey Harleston from UMG, Professor Kevin Green from Southwestern Law School, and esteemed talent attorney Bernie Lawrence Watkins. The panel discussion is moderated by Candace Chestnut and Cedar Boschan from Boschan Corporation, where we focus on royalty audits and valuation.
My name is Candace Chestnut. I am an actress and from a family of musicians, so I know personally that the music industry is built on the work and talents of Black musicians. In my role at the forensic accounting firm Boschan Corporation, we help musicians and their heirs with royalty and intellectual property damages claims. So we have a vested interest in clients receiving their fair share and wanted to learn more about this topic from a Black history perspective. Our firm and our distinguished panelists of top entertainment attorneys welcome you to this panel discussion on Black creators, contributions, their history, rights and royalties, challenges, and what has or has not changed. I will be co-moderating this panel with the legendary royalty auditor and expert, Cedar Boschan. Miss Boschan is the founder of Boschan Corporation and has decades of experience serving heirs, artists, and other creators as an accountant in their quest for their fair share.
Thank you, Ms. Chestnut. I'd like to start by introducing our first panelist, Professor Kevin Green. He is a tenured professor at Southwestern Law School, where he teaches advanced entertainment law. Before becoming an attorney, Professor Green served in the armed forces. Professor Green wrote a paper entitled Thieves in the Temple, published by Pepperdine Law Review. What historic event most inspired you to research this topic, Professor Green?
Well, I've been an academic for over 20 years, and before that, I practiced at big Wall Street law firms and also entertainment boutiques, and I work as an expert on attorneys' cases in copyright, trademark, and right of publicity for that. And yes, I was in the U.S. Marine Corps. Hoorah! But the Pepperdine article, which I think was a 2022 article, if I'm not mistaken, was basically a culmination of work that I've been doing over the last 2 decades about African-American creators, intellectual property, and contracts. One of the things that spurred that article, The Thieves in the Temple, not the Prince for his, bravura song, Thieves in the Temple, was that the Supreme Court decided, like the year before, that registration was a requirement of being able to institute an action in federal court. And that upset me and angered me a lot because all my experiences teaches that African-American artists don't register at nearly the rate of other groups. And there were some scholars who disputed that, but I dispute their methodology on it. And so it ended up being a bloodbath for all these artists who basically had unable to enforce their rights until they got registrations. And sometimes that could mean no case at all because of the statute of limitations isn't told during that. So that was one thing. Of course, the other thing that I've been writing about and thinking about and speaking about for years, the one person that came to my mind was a guy named Barrett Strong. Barrett Strong was the artist who gave Motown their first big hit. It was a song called Money. That's What I Want. It's been covered by everybody on the planet. And we learned that Barrett Strong co-wrote the song with Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown. It was registered as such in the Copyright Office. In those days, you had to go to the Copyright Office. Can you imagine that, to do the registrations in the 1960s? Then somehow, somebody at Motown, we don't know who, went to the U.S. Copyright Office, took Barrett Strong off the copyright registration, and for 25, almost 30 years, Barrett Strong was not receiving any revenue from this, one of Motown's biggest hits, which has been covered, and everybody on this call understands how music royalties work, all the ways a song can be monetized every time it's used in the movie, in a television commercial, a play, etc. And that really got my attention. And so I did a lot of research on this issue, and it wasn't uncommon. And the thing I want to stress, because I don't want to monopolize time, is this happened again in 2016, 2017. So this is not ancient history, it's not something from back in the 60s. When Lil Wayne sued Cash Money and found out that even though it was supposed to be a joint authorship situation, the Cash Money Corporation had filed the registrations only in their name and not in Lil Wayne's name. And he only found that out because he was owed $10 million that they hadn't paid, and his lawyer did the research. So this is an ongoing, continuing issue where registration is one of the many devices in copyright law that has proved to be disadvantageous to African American artists. And I've now concluded my opening statement.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I'm sure we'll get more into the details as this conversation unfolds. I'm going to now introduce our next panelist, who originally hails from Dominica, if I'm saying that correctly, and she went to Howard University and became a very esteemed attorney representing recording artists and songwriters and producers and others in the music industry out of Atlanta. So she's on the talent side. And please welcome Bernie Lawrence Watkins. I have a question for you, Bernie. We understand that you were inspired to become an entertainment attorney as a result of your brother's unfortunate experience in business deals. Can you tell us what happened and what you learned from it?
Sure. I'll go back to my brother and I attended Howard University together. And he and another gentleman by the name of Derek Angeletti formed a group called Two Kings and a Cipher. And they had gotten a deal with a record label by the name of Bahia Entertainment, which was under Columbia Records at the time. And it was a big deal to us because, again, we were college students. And being that I was his sister, I was able to see what he was experiencing as an artist signed to a label, but not really getting the necessary support because he was a small artist. They were small artists on the label. And I was able to see firsthand how they had to do all the promo tours, driving from city to city in a van and not making any money. And also, in terms of making music videos, trying to get on MTV at the time, they were told that their videos were too Black, and that it was not something that was in line with what MTV was playing at the time. So my brother ended up losing the deal, and being that they were dropped. And I just was able to see that artists really need help. They need support. They need people who are really going to advocate for them to make sure that when deals are negotiated, certain terms aren't in the deals. So I said I wanted to go to law school. And I wanted to become that lawyer that was going to advocate for artists and artists' rights to make sure they got the best deals possible. So I'm glad to say, fast forward 25 years later, that's what I do. I really work hard on behalf of my artists and talent that I represent. I have no issues going up against the record labels, making that ask, because the only things they could say is no, right? And I just think that artists, they can't do it by themselves. They need people in their corner who are there to support them, who are going to listen to them, hear their gripes, and make sure that the deals represent the issues and the concerns that they have, so that when they sign the contracts, it's a happy medium.
Glad you were inspired to become such a righteous artist advocate. Let's go to our third panelist. Mr. Jeffrey Harleston got his start as a prosecutor in the Iran-Contra affair. And then you made a big pivot into entertainment, where I understand you were doing A&R for a while, and you worked your way up to becoming the head of legal at Universal Music Group, and that now you chair a $25 million fund. Can you tell us a little bit about that fund, such as, is the fund invested, and exactly what are those earnings used for, and then who decides where the money goes? Want to talk a little bit about the fund?
Sure. This was a fund that was started in the wake of the activities that we all witnessed in the summer of 2020 with the murder of George Floyd and several others. What we started was more than a fund. We started a task force. It's called the Task Force for Meaningful Change. And the 25 million that you're referring to is funding for that task force. Funding not to operate the task force, but funding for the task force to actually use philanthropically to support initiatives that are affecting the Black and Brown community related to music. And what's so important about it is, and what was so evident and remains evident today, but was so pointed at the time of the summer of 2020 was with all of the issues that we have in our country relating to issues of race and culture. The music business is unique in the sense that we have a very, very challenging history when it comes to African American artists, and a history that's frankly very dark, and a lot of people don't want to really necessarily confront and come to terms with. The way artists were treated certainly in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and even some ways into the 70s, particularly Black artists, were very, very, very hurtful when you look back and understand how those artists and the culture was relegated to a certain position within the music business. So that's kind of the mission that's behind the Task Force for Meaningful Change. That's what our task force is called. And the $25 million, no, it's not invested because it's there to give away. So we've been
Who donated that money?
the Universal Music Group gave the $25 million to the fund to allocate annually, and we've been allocating it about $5 million a year over the last almost 5 years, and we've tried to focus on different issues, whether it's education, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, and mental wellness. We did a significant unit on mental wellness and identifying individuals and organizations in those areas that are providing needed services and using the funding to support those organizations.
And so you're teaming up with like nonprofit organizations in
Yeah,
order to
absolutely,
fund their
absolutely
initiatives?
nonprofit. Yes, 100% nonprofits. Yes, yes.
And
absolutely.
they write grants or something to apply? Is that how it works? Or
Sometimes they write grants. Sometimes we reach out to them and say, "Hey,
oh wow.
we've seen the work that you're doing, and we'd like to support you and find ways to do things with you, and provide ways to amplify your voice, and perhaps your efforts, and sometimes find ways to align some of the artists that we work with some of these efforts." And it's been, I think it's the key in this area, I think, is really it's kind of twofold. One is to find ways to make an impact. You're not going to be able to change the world overnight, no, but if you can make an impact that's less lasting. So looking for organizations that are not only effective but have a leadership component that will continue in time. And the other thing is to really try and address the needs that can advance the cause, so to speak, and the condition. And so it's been rewarding, and it's been great to allow, provide executives and staff within our company the opportunity to be involved in this organization, the task force, and to be able to lend their talents and understanding to really trying to make a difference.
Could you give us a specific example of an initiative that the task force funded?
Sure. There's one recently. We've been very active and supportive of Colin Kaepernick has an organization. I'm going to get it wrong, the exact name of it, but he's an organization that's working with kids, and we've done a lot. We've not only funded some activities, funded some of the operation of his organization, but also have allowed employees from our company to actually go to some of the camps that he runs and work with the kids.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I actually have more questions, but I don't want to go sideways with this conversation. So thanks for sharing that. All right, back to you, Candace.